Okay, hi all. What I want to do is go over the pre-lab portion of the labs coming up for the rest of the semester. It's not very hard, but I wanted to, I've had a few questions come in as to what I mean by that. So let's go ahead and start. Okay, so this is basically our third week, but it says experiment 1, but because it's our first wet lab for the semester. Okay, and it's on pretty basic stuff. It's basically just talking about measurement in terms of precision and accuracy, and getting used to using some common lab equipment. Okay, now your lab is broken down into these parts. Okay, this is how I'm grading your lab using this rubric or metric. Okay. All right, so basically you've got 3 parts to the lab. There's the pre-lab, there's the actual doing the lab, then there's the conclusions. So we have a raw score of 100 points. Now, what I mean by a raw score, you're going to eventually, I'm going to take and merge all your labs into 15% points for Chem 400. That means I'm going to be taking the raw points, converting those to a percent, and then 15% of that will be your score for this lab, or for this portion of your Chem 400. Then I'll submit that to Dr. Adkins. Okay, so it says here, name, title, date. Now this is all to be done in Word. Gosh. And so in other words, electronic, not handwritten, electronic. So you may show me that on your phone, on a tablet, or a laptop. All of them are fine. Electronic devices just show me the pre-lab. Then you're going to be taking data. Now you can take data on handwritten paper, or you can do it directly into the electronic device you're using. Either way works fine. But the bottom line is you're going to be turning in a PDF to me for this lab. Okay, so we've got name, title, date. That means on this lab, you need to have your name, obviously, the date, the title. The title is already there. Objective or purpose, okay? Now, these labs are nice because it actually tells you the objectives. Some labs don't, and you have to figure it out. You figure it out based on the introduction to the lab. They call this discussion, but it's an introduction to the lab. Okay. This says SDS first aid. Now, we're only using water. And next week, we're going to be using water and salt. So there's no SDS first aid for this lab or experiment 2. After that, we're going to have to get into first aid, and I'll have another short video showing you how to do that as well. Okay, so objective, purpose, already there for you. Pre-lab questions. Some of these labs have pre-lab questions, some don't. If there are pre-lab questions, go ahead and do them. If there aren't any pre-lab questions, you don't have to do them. Okay. Then the procedure. Okay. I want you to have in your write-up the procedure. So in other words, you can do this lab regardless of your lab packet. So in other words, I could pick up your lab write-up after this is all done and actually use your write-up with the procedure that you have embedded within your write-up to do the lab. I know the purpose of the lab. I know how you did the calculations. The data will be there, the post-lab questions, and your conclusion. all within your write-up. Okay, so that's basically it. So each lab is going to fall into these categories here. Okay, let's see. If we go down to see, for example, these are post-lab questions here. But if we go down to, here's our data table. This is where you're going to either have electronic version of the data table, or you're going to print this off and then handwrite it in and then transcribe it back. Either way is fine. Some professors require you to do it directly, and others don't. I'm one of the ones that don't. So you may do either way is fine. Okay, and that's it. Now, all your labs are due 1 week from when they're done. So in other words, if you're in a Tuesday lab, your labs are due the following Tuesday in Canvas. So you upload that. If you're in a Thursday lab, you have a week to do the lab, okay? If there's some extenuating circumstances, of course, you need to communicate that with me beforehand. All right, so that's basically it for the lab. It's the write-up. It's very straightforward. There's nothing magic. It's very straightforward. It's just a matter of, for the pre-lab, it's going to be a lot of converting the digital text, getting that into your lab write-up. Now you can use Word, you can use Google equivalent, any of those. You can use Adobe Editor, any of those applications are fine. You just need to somehow end up with a PDF of the completed lab. Okay. All right.